Hi there. I'm Dr. Myrdalis Diaz-Ramirez, and this is the Design Your Physician Life podcast. Welcome to this episode brought to you by our Maxillary Mastermind, an exclusive mastermind for physician entrepreneurs. Today, we have a very special guest, Dr. Robyn Tiger from StressFreeMD. We had a great conversation with Dr. Robyn Tiger about design your business inspired by your transformation. Are you ready? Let's go.
Welcome to the Design Your Physician Life podcast, where you will get excited about being a physician, learn the tools that can help boost your success, and great tips from successful doctors. Join us to unlock the keys to an amazing physician life. And now, here's your host, Dr. Myrdalis Diaz-Ramirez.
Well, guys, welcome to another episode of Design Your Physician Life. We're very excited today. We have Dr. Robyn Tiger here. She's a physician and a trauma-informed self-care coach. She founded StressFreeMD, which is a wellness practice that provides freedom through self-care education. She uses her unique combination of trainings in medicine, yoga therapy, meditation, and life coaching to educate others in stress management, burnout prevention, and relief. She has created her own CME accredited program called RX Inner Peace. She's also a healthy healer partner for the Western Carolina Medical Society, a key opinion leader for self-care surgeons, faculty for trauma-informed yoga therapy, advisory council member of Yoga Therapy Today and yogatherapy.health, and is an O2X human performance specialist for first responders. She's actually a radiologist who trained originally in natural science and psychology. So we're very excited to have you here today, Dr. Tiger. How are you?
Thanks. I am great. And I'm really excited to be here. I'm a very big fan of you, your work, and your podcast. So thank you.
Well, thanks a lot for coming. We're very, very happy. I'm going to be coming in one of your podcasts. And when we did that recording, I was really impressed, with the way that you have of communicating. And I know that I'm maybe a little bit more hyper when I'm talking and, but when I talk to you, it's like everything calms down and then you're able to really relax and have a better time to think about things, but in a good, in a good way, calming way. And you have that about you. You are able to transmit that energy, calming energy to others, which is really well needed. We were talking earlier today about our mental health issues and how important it is in our society. And in this case, we're focusing this particular section on physicians, and we really appreciate all the work that you do. So thank you for being here and thank you for sharing your work with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for honoring this work.
So tell us a little bit about, that girl who decided to become a physician. What happened? What's your story behind your physician life?
Yeah, I was a little girl, actually. I remember the moment I wanted to be a doctor. I was in third grade. I don't even know if I was 8 years old yet, maybe just turning 8. And it was near Halloween. And my teacher, Miss Miller, I don't know if Miss Miller, if you're listening, Mrs. Miller rolled out this life-size skeleton. And up until then, I thought skeletons were Halloween decorations and costumes that we put on our bodies. But when I learned that the skeleton was actually inside of our body, I was fascinated. And I knew at that moment that I wanted to be a doctor. So that is the beginning.
I truly have chills because, I had really not thought about that. Like you could think that were decorations. And I don't know when I really had that transition. You remember that so vividly.
Yeah.
So being a physician, did you ever think that you were going to be a radiologist?
I don't really think that at all. I actually thought, because I love children, I was going to go into peds or OBGYN. I love working with my hands, so I thought maybe surgery. No, radiology did not come to mind. I don't even think at 8 years old, I knew what a radiologist was.
Yeah, well, now we know that they look at the bones so that there's something out there.
Interesting. Yeah.
So that little girl went to high school and then to college. And then in college, you did something different than radiology, right? You did psychology, right?
So I was a double major in natural science and psychology. So we have to take the required courses to apply to medical school. But I just found more and more interest in the mind and how the mind works and a lot of the science behind how the mind was working. And I was taking so many courses in that it actually fulfilled the psychology major requirement. So I double majored.
Did you ever see yourself using that degree more into directly with clients or patients at that time?
No, I didn't. So funny how now I've added life coaching to what I offer in terms of how I help people. But no, I hadn't seen it at that point. That was, my goodness, how many 30 something years ago? No.
Once before you finish your college degree, you have to think about what you're going to do. And you say that from third grade, you were always thinking about becoming a doctor, correct?
Yeah. Exactly.
And did you stay close to home? Did you travel? What happened there?
I pretty much stayed the course. I went to college about an hour from home. I ended up going to medical school in Philadelphia, which was about 40 minutes from home. I still lived near the schools or in, where the schools were. I didn't live at home. Stayed there for my internship, residency, and fellowship, which was in body imaging at Jefferson in Philadelphia. And then I went into practice and we moved to New Jersey, which was not that far from Philadelphia, because my husband was practicing also as a radiologist in New Jersey. And it just worked out for us to drive in opposite directions, me into Philly, him more south into our state. And so we pretty much stayed in the same area. Yeah.
Did you guys meet during residency?
We met when he was a resident and I was a medical student. So I was doing research in mammography at the time, when there was this interesting thought that computers could be used to help find breast cancer on mammograms. Well, now it's the norm, but way back then, it was just the idea of using computers for computer-aided detection, computer-assisted detection, or CAD. And I couldn't leave my research, but I wanted to see what another hospital's radiology program was like. So I stayed local and did an away rotation about 15 minutes away at another hospital in radiology while I continued my research at my home base hospital. And it was there that I met my husband, and he was chief resident in radiology at the time.
Oh, so congratulations. Curiosity took you to your husband. Actually, been curious about medicine, huh?
That's right. Awesome. It did. And interestingly enough, he grew up a few blocks away from me. He was just 4 years ahead. So we grew up in the same neighborhood, went to the same schools, had all the same teachers, but never knew each other because we were never in school at the same time. So it was really, really interesting. He is kind of the boy next door.
That's amazing. You two were radiologists at the same time, kind of graduated. Have you worked together in the same practice? Have you done that?
We did. Yeah. So the first half of my practice, I was in a different practice, which I loved. But over time, because he was working about an hour away, and it just made more sense to move closer to where he was working because I was actually job sharing so that I could raise our children, and he was working full time. We moved closer to where he worked, and then I became the commuter. And wow, that was exhausting, having little kids and commuting 2 to 3 hours a day, very full life. So I ended up joining his practice and did work there. We rarely worked together, although we did work on some cases together because it was a huge practice and we were in different offices and hospitals and had some different interests within the practice. But yeah, we were in the same practice, and they called us the doctor's Tiger. I was she Tiger and he was he Tiger, so that the technologists and the staff could separate us when they were talking about which Dr. Tiger. It was very cute.
I can imagine. Yeah, I know I've shared the last name with some other people in town, and it can get confusing, like everybody starts calling you. So when I created our mastermind, I created it for, I was interested in advancing our business, and I created it for my husband to be part of our businesses. And I know that you have created all these other companies, StressFreeMD, and all these other sources of revenue outside of radiology in order to help other physicians. Is he involved at all in your businesses? How does that interaction? Is he like just supportive on this side, or is he involved on it? What's his interest for you, like as a couple in this business venture of yours?
He's just my cheerleader. He's very supportive. So he is, there whenever I need a hug or, pat on the back or to run to the grocery store, just to take a walk. I mean, he's an amazing human, a wonderful friend. We're married almost 30 years. So August, we're married 30 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But he has his own interests, and I have mine. So we don't work together in this StressFreeMD, but we are very respectful of each other's desires and interests.
Let's talk about the transition to StressFreeMD. You were a radiologist. For how long did you work as a radiologist? And when did you realize that you really wanted to, switch gears and get into more of the mental health, helping physicians? How did that transition happen? What were you doing at the time when you thought, you know what, I really think I should start doing something like this?
Yeah, so this was about 10 years ago. Now that I think about it, I've actually been in this space educating others in stress management and wellness, being a wellness advocate for about 10 years now. And what happened was that although this 8-year-old girl who couldn't wait to be a doctor, went in all starry-eyed, and I still think practicing medicine is one of the greatest privileges of life, probably next to being a mom. It's
You're
an incredible honor.
Some way or another, right?
That's
You're
right.
caring.
We're still caring.
You're a caregiver.
Yeah, we're caregivers. But I have to be honest that probably about 10 years in or so, I started to develop many symptoms that seemed very disconnected. And I became what we know in medicine as a complex case. And as you know, as doctors, our left brain loves figuring things out. So we love figuring out complex cases, but we don't ever want to be one. And the symptoms that I had developed over time, which seemed disconnected, included things like migraine headaches with intractable vomiting. I had tinnitus that kept me up at night. I couldn't sleep. I had vertigo, dizziness, so much so that I just turned my head and the whole room would spin. My gums were bleeding. I had reflux with burning chest pain. My whole body hurt. Like I describe it as feeling like the Tin Man from The Wizard of Oz, where you just can't move. Like everything hurts. Felt so stiff, like I was trapped in this tight body. And I had a really, really scary symptom where I developed these intermittent paresthesias or numbness and tingling in my hands and my feet. And they would come up at the most inopportune times. Not that it was ever okay, but I would be, for example, cutting up vegetables, making a salad, and I couldn't feel the knife in my hand. I'd be driving a car and I'd lose sensation of the steering wheel. I was doing a breast biopsy and I wouldn't be able to feel the biopsy gun in my hand. And of course, because we're physicians, the first thing I could think of was I have some debilitating neurologic disease, because why wouldn't I think that?
MS, right? Something like that is what we think about.
Exactly. I was terrified. And I was exhausted and I was stressed and my digestion was terrible. And, I was just falling apart. I started to have lots of, bad thoughts, right? I started to think, wow, I don't want to live another day feeling this way. I don't even know if I want to be here anymore. It's really scary. And I had 3 physician friends die from suicide. So I started to get really fearful. And I said, wow, I think I'm heading down this terrible path. And I had every imaging study as a radiologist you can imagine. They were all normal. I had lots of blood tests. They were all normal. I took lots of pills. We say pill for an ill. So every doctor I went to for every symptom I had gave me a pill. And I had a pile of pills I was taking every day. I was seeing a mental health care professional. I thought I was doing all the right things, but I wasn't feeling better. And I was just feeling worse. And so that was the point where I said, I have to figure this out for myself because no one else can figure it out for me. And as much as I love Western medicine, in this particular situation, it wasn't helping. And that's when I started to look outside the box of what I already knew and what of all the specialists I had seen knew to try and figure out how to make myself feel better so I didn't end up like my colleagues.
And then, so what was the change that you made? Is that when we have lifestyle medicine coming into the picture?
Not quite, because lifestyle medicine actually formed as an organization and as a known profession several years after that. Interestingly enough, I was already practicing several pillars, and I'm sure that you talk about this on some of your other podcasts. I was already exercising like a fiend. I was already predominantly plant-based in my diet, but the other pillars definitely weren't there. The stress management wasn't there. The sleep was completely off. I wasn't really reaching for external substances in terms of recreation drugs, although I was on a lot of pills that were prescribed to me. My lack of community was just, totally community sense falling apart. And I started to see things such as yoga, such as meditation. I was seeing this more and more out there in the media. And I kept rolling my eyes because I thought that's just for those people over there. I'm an athlete and I don't know what those people do, but it's not for me. But I kept hearing more and more about it. And it ended up that there was this yoga and meditation 101 class down the road from my home. And it was a 5-week series. It was for beginners. It sounded like it was going to be run by someone really intelligent. She was an anthropology professor at the local university. And I grabbed my neighbor who's a nurse and I said, "Hey, you want to go check this out?" And she kind of rolled her eyes. And I said, "Look, if we hate it, we'll leave and we'll go out to dinner and I'll buy you dinner." So she said, "Sure." And so we went, and I have to tell you, I was exhausted. I worked an entire day. I couldn't tell you how many biopsies I did, how many cases I read, came home, put the mom hat on, fed my kids, got them bathed, got out of the house in time for this 7:30 class, totally with one eye open, stressed out, mind everywhere. And from the very first class, at the end of the class, everything turned around. I felt calm. I felt clear. I wasn't tired, even though I came in exhausted. I felt really grounded, and I didn't know what happened. So my doctor
neuroplasticity, huh?
Happening right away. Well, I think neuroplasticity takes a little bit more time, but what happened?
It's the beginning.
But you know what I came to learn after diving into the medical literature and after unpacking the physiology was that I had learned to bring my stress response down, my relaxation response up, and to bring homeostasis back to my autonomic nervous system. So my left brain began to unpack what was happening. And as I continued to go more and more to the classes, my symptoms started to get better one by one. And I came to understand that what I was experiencing was a rip-roaring case of chronic stress. And that the symptoms I was experiencing were from chronic stress, and they were relieved as I started to learn how to work with my own physiology. So that was the beginning of my understanding of what was going on with me, and then wanting to learn more and diving in more so that I could help other people. But that's how it started.
So it's amazing when patients come to one, as a radiologist, you didn't have this interaction, you had it as a patient, and there's a pill. You have this, there's a pill. You have this, there's a pill, but putting everything together and then thinking that stress can be such a creator of so many symptoms is not something that necessarily comes up to mind. And people we see them like they might be offended by the, "Oh, you're saying that it's all in my head and all this stuff." But, everything is processed in the brain, right? It's our computer. So if we're able to relax, if we're able to feed, if we're able to clean our brain, our CPU, as I say, then we're able to have some good output. And yours wasn't like that. And as you're saying, so yoga was amazing for you. When, who were like your mentors that specifically took your any business coaches or anything that you saw? Because I know that you were, in what we're doing for coaching for physicians, you've been more of a pioneer in this area with yoga and for our societies with lifestyle medicine specifically. Who did you look up to? Because there were not many people to look up to in conventional traditional medicine here in the US at the time when these changes happened for you.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So like I said, at the time, nobody's really talking about this stuff. And I remember seeing a quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson, and he says something that really spoke to me. Actually even have it here by my computer. I see it every day, but he says, "Go where there is no path and leave a trail." And I really found that wonderful, to create that space that if you see something that you can do and to help other people, and even if no one else is doing it, create that path and leave a trail for others. And so, as I mentioned, I started to experience relief myself, and I wanted to learn more. So as we do as doctors, we become certified in the things that help us. I initially started out becoming certified in yoga as a teacher, never thinking that I would necessarily teach other people. Initially, it was just for myself. And then I learned about the field of yoga therapy. So yoga teacher training is 200 hours. Yoga therapy is at least 1,000 hours over a 3-year period. And that lets you dive deeper into the concepts to help individuals with many types of illnesses and symptoms and diseases. And that was right up my doctor alley. So I started first by diving deeper into yoga therapy and becoming certified, and then becoming certified in a specific type of meditation, which I found helpful, called iRest, which was originally created for Walter Reed Army Hospital, for our military, to help them relieve their symptoms and suffering from PTSD. And I studied somatics, understanding a body-based approach to our stress and our anxiety and all that does to our bodies and how to relieve all of that. And that was all really body-based, or I call it bottom-up, right? So that's a bottom-up approach to the stress relief, to calm, to feeling balanced. And then there's the top-down piece. So once I had mastered the body piece, I wanted to learn more about how to work with my thoughts. And that's where the life coaching came in, first as a client and then becoming certified in life coaching. So really coming to it from both ends, this bottom-up approach and this top-down approach, this body-based and mindset-based approach. First, working with the body, because it's really hard to work with our thoughts when we're dysregulated in our body, and then bringing in the thoughts. And that's how, over time, I've developed my methodology to help others in what I've learned.
So I've seen other physicians who are thinking about their side gig, what should my side gig be? And then getting like ideas from other people. And what you're doing, and when things are really successful that I've seen, is it comes from passion. It comes from an experience that really ignited that curiosity, that thought, that passion, and something that impacted your life. And in your case, it's, there's no, it's clear of what happened. And if you had success for yourself, obviously as a caregiver, as a physician, you want to bring that to others. And then changing from radiology into this, tell us how this passion of yours interacted with your career as a radiologist, if there has been a transition. And because also as we think about doing our businesses, we have that certainly, right? We have an income and on all these things that we want to keep. In your case, you also had your husband who was a physician, but at some point it seemed like you were like having really struggling to work, like you were not able to feel your punch biopsy equipment and things like that. So tell us how that happened, how your current StressFreeMD interacted with your radiology life.
Yeah. So like you said, I was very unhappy, and I had started working with a coach to help me figure out, what did I want to do? Do I want to just get another job in radiology? Did I want to add something to my life? Did I want to leave altogether and do something else? So really trying to unpack all of that. So I was working with a physician at the time who is a coach, who she herself had gone through medicine and realized she didn't want to practice and started, helping other doctors, and got so busy, created her own business, helping physicians find non-clinical careers. And she just kept saying, asking me if I wanted to do medical record review or, do expert testimony or all of these things. And lots of lawyers were asking me to do expert testimony, particularly with my background in radiology and breast work. And I just said, that doesn't feel good in my heart. Like when I think about it, getting up in the morning, I didn't feel joyful thinking about doing the things that she was recommending. Working for an insurance company, I mean, they may be great things for other people, but it wasn't bringing me joy. And I kept coming back to wellness. I kept coming back to my desire to teach other people what I learned, whether it be the stress piece, whether it be how to eat properly and exercise and all of these things, sleep better. And so I was just pulled and pulled. I knew that I couldn't learn everything I wanted to learn by staying in a job that made me unhappy. And although I knew I was really good at my job, and my goodness, the surgeons were crying in my office, like not even joking, that I was leaving, like, oh, I don't want anyone else to do my needle looks, and I don't want anyone else to read my cases. And I said, I'm sorry, but I have a calling. Like I really need to go and do this. I need to continue to feel better myself and to educate myself enough to help others. And so I did. It was a process of educating others while I was becoming certified in many different things. The more interest I had, the more studying I did, the more certifications, to create this whole person approach. And I was helping different populations initially. People who have cancer. I was working with our military. I was working with first responders, SWAT teams, firefighters, police officers, people in the corporate world, as well as physicians and nurses and other healthcare professionals. And when 2020 pandemic hit, I already knew that the statistics were so astoundingly terrible for physicians. Burnout was half at that time. Suicide was twice the national average. Depression was close to 80%. I said, I'm pivoting and I'm going to focus on my colleagues completely now. If other people ask me to continue to help them, I will. But my focus, my intention is now straight on my colleagues. And as I expected, those statistics continued to skyrocket over the last 2 years. So we have 4 out of 5 physicians burned out. We have depression scale somewhere in the 90s, 90%. They're expecting suicide to continue to rise. So that's how StressFreeMD really came full force. Was doctors have been asking me for years, I love what you just taught me. I can't remember it. Can you create a video? Do you have a handout? Or I can't make it to anything you're doing because I'm on call or I've got things with my kids. Is there a way that you can put it online? And up until that point, I was like, yeah, okay. I don't know how to do that. And in 2020, I said, I'm going to learn how to do that. And that's what I did. And so what do we do as doctors? We educate ourselves more. So I took more courses and I learned how to create online content. I dumped 10 years of my brain out into online content, and I created programs which were self-paced and easy to follow in a way that physicians learn best: short, quick, science-based, evidence-based. And I combined that with live coaching. And that's what I've been doing, since 2020, in addition to presenting and leading workshops and anything and everything I can. My involvement in American College of Lifestyle Medicine as their lead faculty and subject matter expert for stress management. Currently developing a program for AMWA, American Medical Women's Association, and so on.
Well, let's go fast forward. Right now, you mentioned a bunch of ways that you have your income streams, right? You say that you have an evergreen courses where you dump the 10 years of knowledge, as you say, those courses. You have consulting, you have one-on-one coaching, you have these other societies that you're helping. If you look back, in the last 10 years, if you can think about 1 or 2 stories what was your major satisfaction as an entrepreneur and as a coach? Maybe a couple of times where you say, this story really touched me, or this story really helped me understand that this is where I have to be.
Yeah. Wow, there are so many. There are so many. I've had so many wonderful clients that have had incredible transformations. I love hearing things like, because of you, I found joy in practicing medicine again, independent of our broken healthcare system. Because of you, my marriage has been renewed and my kids think I'm a cool mom again. Because of you, I no longer have pain in my body after going to chiropractors and physical therapists and occupational therapists and acupuncturists and massage therapists and taking all kinds of medications. My body doesn't hurt anymore. Because of you, I wake up in the morning and I'm no longer tired. And it's just on and on like that, where people are making incredible transformations and they say because of me, but I'm really the instrument. It's the education that they're implementing that is making them feel better. And there's so many more stories like that, but being able to hear the transformations that people are making simply by learning the education we were never taught back in medical school, that makes my heart happy when I wake up each day.
That's awesome to have a job that you really can connect. And that, as you say, waking up to a job that you really don't like because it provides for your family is really not the way that ideally, as a physician with so much education, we would like to live. And the good thing is that nowadays, different than other times, we have so many options and so many connections that we didn't have before. So for physicians, and this is one of the things, it's really the main thing, the main reason for us to do this, to have this effort of the podcast and our mastermind is really to show physicians that there's alternatives and we don't have to be another statistic. We can escape that burnout and get out of that depression. We have to recognize the problem, and then we have help these days, like physicians like yourself. Let's talk about now more focus on the business aspect of your career. And we want to give like 3 specific business tips for our listeners. We know that we just mentioned how being passionate about what you are doing is something very important to make it long lasting, meaningful, and make you happy, and then you educated yourself before doing this business aspect, because you say, I didn't know how to create a course. So I went ahead and then, I studied. You have to do that. Which 3 specific business tips you think you can give to our listeners who are thinking maybe about doing a coaching program, having an evergreen course online, things like that?
Yeah. So let's see. You can't see my monitor, but I have lots of sticky notes of really empowering phrases and affirmations that I've heard over the last decade of my life that help move me forward through all of this. And I'll share a few of those with you. You said 3. Let me pick 3. One is, it's not lack of resources, it's lack of resourcefulness. It's not lack of resources, it's lack of resourcefulness. And so just like you mentioned, I said, I don't know how to do that. Well, you figure it out. I went from saying, I don't know how to do this to, how can I do that? How can I learn how to create online content? How could I get better lighting? How can I learn what mic to use? How can I learn how to create a funnel? How do I learn how to use a calendar app? How do I learn how to podcast? How do I learn how to do all of these things, right? Instead of, I don't know how, it's, how can I learn to do that? So it's not lack of resources, it's lack of resourcefulness. How can you be resourceful? Who can you ask to help you? What program can you take to teach yourself? What YouTube video can you watch? What, customer service agent can you get on the phone with to get some help? So that for me was a really big thing, changing your language around, I don't know how to, how can I? Another one would be, perfect is the enemy of good enough. As physicians in particular, we want everything to be perfect. So perfect is the enemy of good enough. If you're waiting for something to be perfect, you're never going to do it. It's going to be perfect, actually, for the person you're going to help. And people out there need your help. You have rare and valuable skills. So don't focus on being perfect. Just put your stuff out there and help the people that need you. It is good enough, just as it is. The other thing I would say is that we have a lot of fear around doing something new, particularly when it's not laid out for us. As doctors, we know we go to medical school, we go to internship, we do our residency, we do our fellowship, we get a job. It's like bump, 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 bump. But when you want to create something from nothing, that can be really scary, right? So don't let that fear prevent you. And I love the saying that courage is fear walking. Courage is fear walking. The fear is going to be there, but you get to bring it along with you. Say, hey, come along, see what we can do. Put it in the back seat of your car, just not in the front seat as you drive forward into whatever you're creating.
That's amazing. Yeah. It's incredible how many things we don't do because of fear or because we think that something's going to be difficult, right? It stops us from doing amazing things and helping others. And once we're able to visualize these capabilities, that things are possible and that there are resources available, we can not only help others, but help ourselves in the same way that you've done. That's something that we realize. Once we realize that, then, it's immense things can happen. Tell us where people can find you, Dr. Tiger.
Yeah, so you'll find me on my website, which is www.stressfreemd.net. You'll find information about setting up a free call if you want to chat, learn how I can help you more. I have free videos, very short 5-minute videos to help you get started on your stress-free journey. My podcast is on there, the StressFreeMD podcast, where you can listen to get quick, actionable tips. Information about my program is there as well. And I'm all over social media. So whatever your favorite social media outlet is, you will find me on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Twitter. Did I forget any? I don't know. And I'm sure you'll put all of those links. I'm all over. So you can put all of those links in the show notes. And I'm happy to connect with you.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Robyn Tiger, for being with us today. It's been really an eye-opening session. Just, from a clinical point of view, having been a physician, suffer that yourself, going to see so many other clinicians and then finding the solution yourself and within yourself, your healing power, that we have that healing. And then not only doing that for yourself, but sharing that with others, with physicians who take care of the world. That's really special to us. So thank you for all the work that you do for us and the inspiration that you are to all of us. So thanks for being here and have a great day.
Much gratitude for having me. Yes, and you too.
Well, guys, that's it for today. Stay tuned for more of our Design Your Physician Life podcast, which was brought to you today by our Maxillary Mastermind, an exclusive mastermind for physician entrepreneurs. We will continue to bring you useful resources to develop your physician entrepreneur life, like we did today with Dr. Robyn Tiger, and much more. To reach Dr. Robyn Tiger, please go to her website, StressFreeMD.net. Thank you for joining us. We hope that you really enjoyed our episode today. We did really enjoy it. Please visit our website, maxillary.com. That is MAXALLURE. And also subscribe to this podcast, Design Your Physician Life. Like us, give us 5 stars, and share with your friends and family. See you later. Bye.
Please remember that Design is not providing specific financial, medical, or career advice. Our only intent is to stimulate your appetite for growth by sharing our experience and those of our speakers, coaches, and guests. Your personal growth and success will be unique to your circumstances and your hard work. We sincerely hope you enjoyed the show and look forward to seeing you next week.